Good evening to Finance. We are back in and we are going to do our work session first. So with that being said, I am going to turn it over. Oh, wait a minute. I was just lying to you. We are going to do a BDR introduction first, as my note right in front of me says. So I will let Mr. Thorley go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. There's one BDR that requires committee introduction tonight. It is BDR 18-1252, revises provisions relating to the Office of Nevada Boards, Commissions, and Council Standards of the Department of Business and Industry. This is a budget implementation bill requested by the money committees when the money committees closed the budget for the Department of Business and Industry. Happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
I hear no questions, so I'll accept a motion.
Thank you. I'd so move to introduce this BDR.
Thank you very much. I'll take a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Thorley. All right, now we will go to work session. And I will start with Mr. Thorley. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley again for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. The first bill on work session this evening is Senate Bill 85, which was heard earlier this morning. It revises provisions related to public safety. The bill was presented by Senator Scheibel. Support testimony from UNLV, no opposition or neutral testimony. There were no amendments presented or discussed at the bill hearing this morning. There is one fiscal note from the Department of Public Safety, Highway Patrol Division, for the cost of one position. However, this is an existing program, so the committees may wish to move the bill as is. If so, the appropriate action would be to do pass.
Thank you very much, and I'll accept a motion.
So move to do pass.
Thank you very much. Second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on this motion or bill? Hearing Senator Buck, did you have, okay. SB 85, right? Yes, SB 85. All right, with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay from Senator Stone and Senator Buck. And motion passes, and I'll give the floor statement to Senator Wynn. And Senator Titus is absent excused. Thank you. All right. With that, we'll go to Senate Bill 135.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 135 was heard in committee on March 3rd. It makes a $4 million general fund appropriations to communities and schools to provide integrated support services. The bill was presented by Majority Leader Canizaro, accompanied by representatives of communities and schools. There were a number of comments in support, no comments in opposition or neutral, no amendments were discussed at the hearing. There have been further discussions on this bill, and the committee may wish to consider a reduced general fund appropriation of $1 million rather than the $4 million included in the current version of the bill. If the committee wishes to move the bill with the lower amount of money, the appropriate motion would be to amend and do pass as amended.
Thank you very much. I'll accept a motion.
I'd so move to amend and do pass as amended.
Thank you very much. Second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on SB 135? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries, and I will give the floor statement to Senator Canizaro. We will do Senate Bill 260.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 260 was heard this morning in this committee, revises provisions related to air quality. It was presented by Senator Flores and Jackie Spicer with the Nevada Environmental Justice Coalition. Let me back that up. There was an amendment discussed and presented this morning. That conceptual amendment was made available to all the members this morning and is available on Nellis. I won't go through it in detail, but happy to answer any questions if anybody has any questions. There was discussion about the two remaining fiscal notes on the bill from the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. After the committee recess this morning, fiscal staff did receive an updated fiscal note from the Department of Agriculture indicating, as they mentioned in their testimony, that they still anticipate a fiscal impact related to the bill. There was testimony presented this morning that, based off the language in the bill, OSHA, which is in the Division of Industrial Relations, would have to adopt regulations, and that it is unknown at this time what those regulations might be. Therefore, it is unknown at this time what the cost might be to any state agency. If the committee wishes to move this bill with the conceptual amendment that was presented this morning, the appropriate action would be to amend and do pass as amended.
Thank you very much, and I'll accept a motion.
So moved to amend and do pass as amended.
Thank you very much, and I'll take a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion? Senator Buck, please.
Thank you, Chair. And just to clarify that this morning when we heard it was 150,000 from natural resources and then 256,000 from agriculture, from the Department of Agriculture, but now it's unknown, or is that what I'm understanding?
Wayne Thorley for the record, Fiscal Analysis Division. The fiscal notes that we have from the departments are, as you stated, the departments have not submitted fiscal notes indicating that it is unknown to them. Fiscal staff believes that the costs are unknown because the regulations have not been adopted.
All right. Thank you, Chair. I will be a no today because it's a lot of unknown. It's unprecedented for us to do something before OSHA, and there's just a lot of unknowns when it comes to this. And I think that we let the federal government work through their things and OSHA work through their things before we vote yes on this.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments? All right, with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Senator Buck and Senator Stone are nays, and Senator Titus absent excused. And with that, motion passes, and I will give the floor statement to Senator Flores. And we'll go on to Senate Bill 318.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. There is an amendment on 318 that is on Nellis. Somewhere I have lots of copies. 1 second. So I don't have copies of the amendment with me actually, but it should be uploaded on Nellis. So Senate Bill 318 revises provisions relating to charter schools, was heard on May 19th in this committee, was presented by Senator Daley. Testimony of support was provided by the NSEA and the Washoe Education Association. The opposition Testimony came from the Charter School Association of Nevada, the Elko Institute for Academic Achievement, a charter school in Elko, and a few others. There was no amendment presented at the bill hearing, but there is a conceptual amendment, as I mentioned. This amendment would delete sections 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, and 14 of the bill. It would also amend section 4 by deleting the changes to subsection 2 of subsection 4. Section 10 would be retained in the bill with no changes. Essentially, the amendment would remove all the provisions related to educational management organizations. And then the amendment would retain the provisions that require charter schools to notify its sponsoring organization of any planned construction over $100,000, and the provisions that make charter school sponsoring organizations responsible to ensure that the provisions of NRS 338 are complied with by each charter school. If the committee wishes to move the bill, Senate Bill 318, with the proposed amendment that I just described, the appropriate action would be to amend and do pass.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll accept a motion.
I'd so move to amend and do pass.
Thank you very much, and I'll take a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on this motion? Senator Buck, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Dundar-Loop. It's kind of late in the game. All of a sudden, the whole bill's like deleted, and then certain sections kept in regard to the construction. The EMOs, whether you're a CMO or EMO, it all supports the schools, those organizations. And so I just saw it as an attack on that, even though those sections were just recently deleted. I'm still going to be a no, though, because I still feel like it's an attack on charters, in particular because charters don't have facility funds. And until they get facility funds, how did they make the math work to pay prevailing wage? It's just not able, you're not able to do that. So anyway, I'll be a no today because of that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. They have big, beautiful buildings, so some of them much newer than the ones that our public school kids are in. All right, with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay from Senator Stone and Senator Buck. Motion passes. Please mark Senator Titus absent excused. And I'll give the floor statement to Senator Daly. Thank you very much. We will go on now to Assembly Bill 544.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathy Crockett. Assembly Bill 544 revises provisions relating to certain licenses issued by the Division of Public and Behavioral Health. This is a budget implementation bill that aligns with the budget closing. The bill was presented by representatives of the Division of Public and Behavioral Health. There were no comments in support, opposition, or neutral, and no amendments were discussed. If the committee wishes to approve the bill, the appropriate motion would be to do pass.
Thank you very much, and I'll accept a motion.
I'd so move to do pass.
Thank you very much. Second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. And Senator Taylor, would you take the floor statement? Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. And we will go on to Assembly Bill 560.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathy Crockett. Assembly Bill 560 was heard in committee this morning. It makes a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $444,325 to the Division of Child and Family Services Rural Child Welfare Budget for unanticipated shortfalls in personnel, travel, transportation, and utility costs. The bill was presented by representatives of the Division of Child and Family Services. There were no comments in support, opposition, or neutral, and no amendments were presented. If the committee wishes to approve the bill, the motion would be to do pass.
I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much, and I'll get a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on this motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries, and please mark Senator Titus absent excused, and I will ask Senator Stone to do the floor statement. And we will move to Assembly Bill 562.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal. Assembly Bill 562 was heard this morning. Makes an appropriation to the Office of the Secretary of State for costs associated with the voter registration and election management system and connectivity of automatic voter registration agencies. The bill is presented by the Chief Deputy Secretary of State. There was one testimony of support, one in opposition, no neutral, no amendments. If the committee wishes to move this bill, the appropriate action would be do pass.
Thank you very much. I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much. A second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries, and I'll give the floor statement to Senator Wynn. And we will move on to Assembly Bill 563.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathy Crockett. Assembly Bill 563 was heard in committee this morning. It makes an appropriation of $1.1 million to the State Controller for costs of consulting services. The bill was presented by the Controller and the Chief Deputy Controller. There were no comments in support, opposition, or neutral, and no amendments were presented. If the committee wishes to approve the bill, the appropriate motion would be to do pass.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? I'll accept a motion.
I'd so move to do pass.
Thank you very much. A second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on this motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Please mark Senator Titus absent excused. And I will take the floor statement. And we will move on to Assembly Bill 564.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley, again for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Assembly Bill 564 was heard this morning in committee. It makes an appropriation to the Fleet Services Division of the Department of Administration for the replacement and purchase of vehicles. The bill was presented by Robbie Burgess, the Administrator of the Fleet Services Division. There was no testimony in support, opposition, or neutral, no amendments. If the committee wishes to move this bill, the appropriate action would be do pass.
Thank you very much, and I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much. And second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on this motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. And I'll ask Senator Scheibel to please do the floor statement. All right, we will go on to Assembly Bill 565.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley again for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Assembly Bill 565 was heard this morning in committee. It makes an appropriation to the Supreme Court of Nevada for the cost of the implementation of a statewide trial court electronic filing system. The bill was presented by John McCormick, Assistant Court Administrator. There was no testimony in support, opposition, or neutral, no amendments presented. If the committee wishes to move this bill, the appropriate action would be do pass.
Thank you very much, and I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much. Second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Please mark Senator Titus absent excused. And I will ask Senator Neal to take the floor statement. All right, we will go to Assembly Bill 566.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Assembly Bill 566 was heard this morning. It appropriates general funds of approximately $75,000 to the Museums and History Division. It also authorizes funding to provide support for various projects within Nevada State Museums. It was presented by the administrator of the division. There were no comments in support, opposition, or neutral, and no amendments were presented. If the committee wishes to approve the bill, the appropriate motion would be to do pass.
Thank you very much. I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much. And a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Thank you very much. And please mark Senator Titus absent excused. And I'll give the floor statement to Senator Buck, if that's okay. You're welcome. And with that, we will go to Assembly Bill 567. And she? Is that right? I have it right here. I have the bill. 567 is Nancy. We're not doing Nancy? We're going to take a 1-minute recess. All right, regroup, and we will do Assembly Bill 569.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Assembly Bill 569 was heard this morning in committee and presented by Tiffany Greenemeyer, the Director of the GFO. The bill makes an appropriation to the Department of Veterans Services for certain vehicles and equipment. There is no testimony in support, opposition, neutral. There were no amendments. If the committee wishes to move this bill, the appropriate motion would be do pass.
Thank you very much. I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much. I'll take a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on this motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries, and I'll ask Senator Taylor to take the floor statement. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. And with that, we will go to Assembly Bill 573.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Assembly Bill 573 was heard this morning. It makes a general fund appropriation of $8.7 million to the Department of Education to fund the Incentivizing Pathways to Teaching grant program. The bill was presented by the Department of Education. There were 2 comments in support, no comments in opposition or neutral, and no amendments were discussed. If the committee wishes to approve the bill, the appropriate motion would be to do pass.
Thank you very much, and I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much. I'll take a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. And I will ask Senator Taylor, would you take this one as well? You bet. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. And we will go on to Assembly Bill 577.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Assembly Bill 577 was heard this morning in committee and was presented by the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. The bill makes an appropriation to the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for a certain new website and database, and for the replacement of vehicles and computer hardware and associated software. There was no testimony in support, opposition, or neutral. There are no amendments. If the committee wishes to move this bill, the appropriate action would be do pass.
Thank you very much, and I will accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much. Second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Please mark Senator Titus absent excused. And Senator Stone, would you please take the floor statement? And we will go on to Assembly Bill 578.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathy Crockett. Assembly Bill 578 was heard this morning. It makes various general fund appropriations to the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Forestry Division for the replacement of various IT equipment, vehicles, and other equipment, and for certain projects. General fund appropriations total approximately $12 million. The bill was presented by the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. There were no comments in support, opposition, or neutral, and no amendments were presented. If the committee wishes to approve the bill, the motion would be to do pass.
Thank you very much. And I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much. And I'll take a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on this? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. And I will ask you to mark Senator Titus once again, absent excused. And I'll give the floor statement to Senator Buck. The next bill we will do will be AB 579.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley, again for the record, LCB Fiscal. Assembly Bill 579 was heard this morning in committee and presented by Deputy Superintendent Megan Peterson with the Department of Education. The bill makes an appropriation to the Department of Education for the replacement of the information technology system for educator licensure. There was no testimony in support, opposition, or neutral. There were no amendments. If the committee wishes to move this bill, the appropriate motion would be do pass.
Thank you very much, and I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much, and with that, I'll take a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries, and I will take the floor statement on that. And we will move on to Assembly Bill 590.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Assembly Bill 590 was heard this morning. It makes general fund appropriations and authorizes expenditures of money by the Office of the Military for certain projects, programs, equipment, and contract costs. The bill contains a $6.9 million approximately in general fund appropriations, as well as various authorized funding. The bill was presented by the Adjutant General. There was one comment in support, no comments in opposition or neutral, and no amendments were presented. If the committee wishes to approve the bill, the appropriate motion would be to do pass.
Thank you very much. I'll accept a motion.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much, and I'll take a second from Senator Scheibel. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries, and Senator Neal, would you take the floor statement? All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Crockett and Mr. Thorley, for your assistance with the work session. And now, the star of the show, Speaker Yeager. Yes, it's you. And we'll have to remind the audience to make sure their cell phones are silenced, because there's sometimes some people that can't figure that out, Speaker. So we are going to hear Assembly Bill 398. And so we will call the Speaker and Mr. Villardita to the table. What a pleasure. At, what time is it? 7:40 at night. This is Finance at Night, Mr. Villardita. We're happy to have you. We have lots of fun in here. It's just like a classroom. All right. When you're ready, please go ahead.
Well, good evening Chair Don Loop, Vice Chair Wynn, members of the Senate Finance Committee. My name is Steve Yeager. I represent Assembly District 9, which is down in southwest Las Vegas. And I'm so thankful that you're allowing me to present Assembly Bill 398 and its first reprint to you this evening. As you mentioned, Chair, with me at the table is John Velardita, Executive Director of the Clark County Education Association. After I tell you about the motivation behind the bill and what we are trying to achieve, I will hand it over to him to share the data underpinning this concept, or at least one of the concepts in the bill, and why we believe it is going to make a significant difference in filling our teacher vacancies. Assembly Bill 398 is a bill that directly addresses one of the most significant and crucial challenges facing our schools, and that is teacher shortages in hard-to-fill positions. We know that too many of our schools and critical subject areas are struggling to attract and retain talented teachers. This bill provides a targeted solution, offering additional compensation to the educators who step up to teach where they are needed most, in some of the most challenging environments. We know having a qualified educator in every classroom is crucial to educational achievement. Without that, we may never achieve the results we all desire and expect. So let me take you through the mechanics of the bill. First, to the extent money is appropriated, the bill provides a mechanism for the Nevada Department of Education to provide money to school districts to provide additional funding for hard-to-fill positions. The bill provides a definition of hard-to-fill positions on page 3, line 41, through page 4, line 16. For this biennium, the program would be run through the Interim Finance Committee and then would then go to the Department of Education for distribution to the school districts. Going forward, the school districts would need to report to IFC and to the GFO the number of hard-to-fill positions by December 1 of each year and the amount of money which the district would be seeking to provide for such positions. Money would be distributed when a hard-to-fill position is filled. It would be subject to collective bargaining. Any money not spent would revert to the general fund. Now, this would be one-time funding, but there is a requirement that the governor include an appropriation for this program to the extent practicable in each fiscal year in the future. For this coming biennium, this program would be funded at the rate of $45 million each fiscal year for a total of $90 million. This would be a general fund appropriation as detailed in the bill. Now, back to the $90 million. This is the best estimate of how much money it would take to provide roughly $5,000 of additional pay for hard-to-fill positions statewide. This is based on a recent snapshot for the Clark County School District that showed 5,250 hard-to-fill Title I positions and 1,905 special education vacancies for a total of right around 7,100 vacancies. At $5,000 each fiscal year, this amounts to a total of about $71.5 million for the biennium. We then multiplied that number by 1.25 to approximate the cost for the rest of the state, and that got us to the $90 million broken into $45 million each fiscal year. Now, I will say I have made the decision not to include charter schools or education support professionals within the parameters of this portion of the bill when it comes to hard-to-fill positions. Chair, were our financial situation better, I might have made a different decision, and a future legislature can, of course, always decide to include them, but I didn't think it would be fiscally responsible for me to include them now, and I don't want to spread the funding too thin so that it doesn't work. Now, you may hear some opposition because of that, but hopefully we aren't in a situation where we have folks opposing a bill simply because they aren't included in it, especially since they may be in the future. Finally, as this committee is well aware, both the Senate Majority Leader and I have committed to work on the issue of increasing charter school pay. Thus, this bill creates a process through IFC, the Interim Finance Committee, similar to what we did with SB 231 from last session to provide for pay raises for charter school teachers and education support professionals. The amount of that appropriation in the bill is nearly $39 million, which aligns with the best data we have to ensure that there is adequate funding to provide raises equivalent to what we were able to do for traditional public schools, approximately $6,500 per educator or education support professional last session. That data was provided by our fiscal staff, and so those numbers come directly from the closing reports that we had for the education budget. I believe going through the IFC process is important because it will ensure transparency and accountability, the same that we ask from our traditional public schools before providing this funding. So, Chair, with your permission, I would like to hand this over to Mr. Velardita from the Clark County Education Association to tell you about the hard-to-fill positions concept in this bill, what it means in the real world, and why we believe it will be effective.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Chair and members of the committee, thank you for your time. John Bellardita, Executive Director of the Clark County Education Association. So first, I just want to put this into context. There is a lot of discussion, and rightfully so, about how do we improve outcomes and have higher standards of accountability in these schools, particularly the public schools. And what we have shown and what we will share with you tonight, there's a real correlation with outcomes to whether or not there's a teacher in the classroom. So for example, there are over 220 some odd Title I schools in Clark County School District. 115 of those schools are systemically underperforming schools that are star 1, star 2, rank in the bottom quartile of proficiency levels in reading and math. Okay? 92% of all the vacancies in Clark County are in those schools, which means that there isn't a teacher in the classroom. In 2023, we started the school year and we ended the school year with over 30,000 students that did not have a full-time qualified educator in the classroom. So what did we do about this? And this has been an issue that we've been trying to address for some time. This was not all of a sudden, let's just have no evidence, no factual data behind this and try to make, a change. We had been experiencing this for years. For years, these schools have been systemically high vacancies and systemically underperforming. So we used SB 231 dollars, the bill that was moved by the majority leader, not for baseline increases for all 18,000 salaried educators in Clark County. We used it specifically for something like this. And we earmarked money to try to say, okay, if a school has 5% vacancies, right, and they're a Title I school, let's give them a $5,000 incentive on their base pay, not a bonus, but on their base pay, and see if we can recruit and retain educators. And in addition, we said our other area of high vacancies are our most vulnerable population, and that's our special needs students. And we said, let's put $5,000 on their base pay to recruit as well as retain special education teachers. And so what were the results of that? We had a finite bucket of money to work with. And so we tried to project 5,000, will it attract people and will it retain people? And here are the results. In 2023, there was close to, at the start of the school year, after your legislative session, after you passed all this money and you passed SB 231, there was close to 1,400 vacancies in Clark County School District. All of them, and these numbers are in these Title I schools that I'm talking about. By the time we moved the $5,000, that number was reduced to a little over 600. There was a 53% reduction in vacancies as a result of that. Special education was even better. We had at the start of that school year 310 open vacancies, and by the end of that, or I should say by the May of that school year, because that's when we took a snapshot, we only had 51 vacancies left. So we had an 84% reduction in vacancies in special education. So the point is, this application of money on the base pay for educators to either stay in those positions or go to those positions had a direct impact. And what were the conditions under which an educator would receive this money? One, they had to remain in that school. Or if they are special education, they had to retain being a special education educator. Now, these positions weren't just exclusively for classroom teachers. We recognized that there was also other licensed professionals that spent the majority of their time related to the classroom. They received that additional $5,000. And in special education, we had self-contained and non-self-contained educators that would receive this. So at the end, what we found was over 11,000 educators in Title I schools were eligible for this, and over 3,500 special education teachers were entitled to this. Over 14,000 educators were entitled to this that received this $5,000. Teachers that were special education teachers that also went into a Title I school received $5,000 twice as special ed as well as Title I, $10,000. That money ran out in March and April of this year, but it had an effect. And for us as an organization to address within our ranks that says we have to recognize that there are differences in these classrooms, different challenges, and so therefore compensation should be different because of those challenges. And our organization membership supported that position moving forward. And that's how we applied the SB 231. And the results outside of the vacancies being reduced, what we're going to see if we're able to maintain it, I go back to how I started this. There is a correlation to low proficiencies and not having an educator in the classroom. And the more we put educators in these classrooms, particularly in these Title I schools, the better off we're going to have an opportunity to try to raise proficiency levels where these kids have a chance to learn. Is that the only solution? Absolutely not. It's not the only solution. But this is the first time we've done this. And I just want to say, we very much acknowledge the fact that the Majority Leader and the rest of the legislature passed SB 231, and we didn't use it for just bonus payments for people or just spread it out to all 18,000 educators. We're very surgical, very prescriptive in this application for the reasons that I said. What's before you in this bill is we've upped the level, the threshold of opportunity. It's not just 5% universal now in elementary, middle, and high school. It's 10%, 12%, and 15%. And why is that? That targets the most neediest schools that have the highest vacancies with the limited amount of money that's being proposed in this legislation. And so if this is passed, we hope to be able to show in the next legislative session not just that we are on the road of continuing to reduce the vacancies, but we would then have had 3 successive years in these schools that are underperforming or systemically have been underperforming, 3 successive years. And Madam Chair, as an educator, you know this, and Senator Buck, you know this, you do need that amount of time to determine whether or not there's real growth in terms of a student's education. So with that, I pass it back to the speaker.
Steve Yeager for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the presentation on the bill, and we want to be respectful of your time, but happy to answer any questions that you or the committee members may have.
Thank you very much, and thanks for getting on the pulpit. It's an important subject. I'm going to start out, can you give us, when you talk about the 10, 12, and 15%, and you don't have to use school names, but can you give us an example of what sort of that school might look like and why it would be 10%, 12%, or 15%? I don't have whatever you have in front of you.
John Ballardita for the record. Do we have PowerPoints for these guys? If you could look at, and you'll receive this, these pages aren't numbered, so it's like page 9. It shows you schools. The title of it is 53% vacancy reduction. And in this, we are highlighting three categories: elementary, middle, and high school. And we're specifically targeting 1-star and 2 stars in those categories. And on one column for the 23-24 school year, you will see their vacancies, right? At the 23-24 school year. Then you will see to the next column how they were reduced with the $5,000 application for this past school year. These are the schools made incredible gains, right? But at the same time still have vacancies. So they would then probably meet that threshold of whether it's 10, 12, or 15. That's what I mean by surgical. We haven't like turned the corner. And here's the one exception. I think 2 pages past that, Western High School. If anybody knows anything about Western High School in Clark County, that's a very tough and challenging school, right? It's urban core, a lot of working class kids. They had, at the start of the 23-24 school year, Western High School had 24 vacancies. By the time we took the snapshot in May of 2024, they had 1 vacancy. The principal there, Antonio Real, I had a conversation with him, and he told me that $5,000 made a difference. And he actually said, which I think at some point you guys would ask, what happens when that goes away? Do I have an exit? And that's part of the challenge that we face, trying to, make this program sustainable moving forward. So I hope that answers your question in terms of why we're focusing on 10, 12, 15. First is it the pot of money that we're working with? We don't have enough money for 14,000 people anymore. So surgically, we go at where still there's high vacancy.
Okay, thank you. That helps. Looking at the schools and understanding where they're at, and I agree with you. It's what's important. Mr. Burrell is a wonderful principal, and that helps as well. I've taught at a couple of these schools, so I also get the dynamics in those. But I will let others ask a question. I have a few more, but I'll go to Senator Buck.
Thank you, Chair Dondero Loop, and thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for including public charter school teacher raises in the bill. For years, I agree. I was with the district for 18 years, and as you saw in these Title I schools, as the experienced, awesome teachers would flock to suburbia, and leaving them without teachers. So I love the solution. Actually, I think it's genius. It's a little disappointing that charter schools are left out again of that. So I'm just wondering, because there's only a few Title I charter schools, if you would even just consider a surgical, just including just Title I schools, because right down from Western High School is Matter Academy, right outside your district, Speaker. So, that way we could prove this in inner city Las Vegas, where, yes, we need excellent teachers, and in all schools.
Steve Yeager, for the record, through you, Chair, to Senator Buck. I appreciate the question. I think we're just at a point financially where I'm not comfortable recommending that in the bill. I understand the concern. I've had conversations with the charter schools about that as well. But, as I noted, my hope would be we come back next legislative session and hopefully we're in a little bit better of a financial position. And to the extent that we're going to have an opportunity to really prove this concept, then I think at that point, it would be up to whoever is here in the seats and really would be up to the governor as well, because there is a mandate that he'd require recommended funding in his budget to the extent practicable. So I don't think I'm comfortable doing that at this time, but I think it's something we could look at going forward.
Thank you very much. Senator Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Validator. Thank you for being here. What a really innovative way to think about. We can't get all 14,000 teachers, but what can we do? And now being across the state. So thank you for that. Just a couple of questions. Will this bill You mentioned that you were able to, the whole thinking behind it was not just the full-time classroom teachers, but other licensed professionals who were assisted, and they were a part of what you did after the last session. Are they included in 398 as well?
John Velardita, for the record, Assembly person. The definition of teacher is in there, and so if they spend over 50% of their time assisting in the classroom, whether they're in the classroom, they then would be eligible.
Thank you. May I follow up, Chair? Thank you. And then the other question is, what you did, I mean, clearly the results speak for themselves. Do you know of any other place in the state, any other district, take that approach to kind of pilot it, I guess, as well?
John Velardita, for the record, no, I do not.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Nguyen.
Thank you, and thank you for this information in this PowerPoint. I see several schools, including Western High School and Cashman Middle School, that are both in my district. And knowing, I mean, I see some of these numbers, 25 teachers vacancy down to 9 is just so significant. And I know that time and time again, we hear that the key to having more success in the classroom is having those licensed educators in the classroom. And so I really commend your ability to take what is really a limited pot of money and really have an impactful change within our education system. So with that being said, I don't really have any questions, just a comment that I look forward to seeing what kind of actual results we're seeing on the, I guess, I know we will see this in student achievement because, like I said, I know that the key to student achievement is having those licensed teachers and educators in those classrooms. So I can't wait to see that because hopefully we will be able to expand this so we can cover all 14,000 teachers. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Senator Nguyen. One of the observations I had, and I don't know if it was purposeful or not, if it was a good idea. But when I look at these schools, they're all around Clark County. They're not just in one area. And I think there's a misnomer that all schools that are Title I schools rely in one area. I was just telling somebody the other day, a school that I'm familiar with, Harvey Dondero, which is off the corner of Tropicana and Jones, is a Title I school, and it's off Tropicana and Jones. It's not off Washington and Eastern or wherever. So these schools represent the county as a whole, and so that's what I think is important. The other thing that's important is that, like a Silvestri Junior High School is very close to Gering. Gering is a 5-star school, a very blue ribbon school, and we have Silvestri Junior High, not very far, that is a Title I school. So I think it's important to understand that that having teachers in schools is important because a blue ribbon school probably has every one of their classrooms filled. And Silvestri obviously has 15 vacancies, for example, or had 15 and is down now to 5. So I think that tells part of the story as well. Speaker Yeager, right at the beginning when you were talking, and I can't bring my brain back to it, but you had some figures of some teachers. You had some numbers of some teachers. Can you give us those numbers again in your testimony?
Steve Yeager, for the record. I'm certainly chair. And this was based on, we could provide this information. I didn't provide it for the record, but I had asked Mr. Velardita at some point when we were considering this concept, can you give me like a rough number of how many positions this would encompass? Because I think that was going to help figure out what the appropriate funding level was. So this was a snapshot in time in the Clark County School District, maybe about 30 to 45 days ago. And that was this, that in the hard-to-fill Title I positions, the number of vacancies were 5,250. And then when we moved over to the special education vacancies, which is a part of the bill there, that was a total of 1,905 special education vacancies that would be hard to fill. So the total vacancy number at that snapshot was 7,110. And then when Mr. Valadita talked about the program that they used the SB 231 money for, it was about $5,000. So we simply did a multiplication of 7,000 times $5,000, and that came out to about 71.6 million for the biennium, and that would be just for Clark. And so we didn't have this information for all 17 school districts, but I basically did a multiplier of 1.25, thinking that would probably cover the rest of the state by increasing that about 25%. So that's how we got to the $90 million. And of course, that's a snapshot in time. And the way the bill is structured, this appropriation will be made to IFC, and then there are some reporting dates in the bill that are very soon, actually, just a couple weeks from now, where we would get this information from all the districts to be able to figure out how many positions are there. And then as IFC, we'd be able to figure out how we want to divide that money up among the school districts. But our hope is it would be right around $5,000. But we can verify that math, and should the bill pass, should it be funded, we'll have a chance to verify that. And I believe, Chair, you will be the chair of IFC at that point. So we'll have a chance to see if the math works out or not.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those numbers. All right, with that, we'll go to Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm just wondering, so I was looking at the slide where it says differential pay produce results, and then in the bill, is there any data that we're also going to collect related to whether or not there's actually been an improvement in academic achievement because those vacancies were filled in Title I schools?
John Valadita, for the record, Senator Neal. We're tracking it, and it's also has to be tracked, obviously, by the employer, the school district. But what I said before in terms of if this program is extended another 2 years, we would then have this current year and 2 more school years to determine growth, right? Growth in proficiency levels. And that's really how you kind of measure. That kind of time frame gives you a better benchmark as to whether or not there's been progress. And the X factor in all of that is, was there a classroom in the teacher throughout that entire time for that student population that would be affected?
Thank you very much. Senator Canizaro, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate this bill. I first appreciate it mostly because I think one of the hypotheses that we had the last legislative session, I think the speaker would agree, because we had many conversations about Senate Bill 231 and whether or not, if you were able to facilitate raises for teachers, would that assist in vacancies? Would that assist in being able to either fill those vacancies or to retain current teachers? And I think one of the things that certainly members of this committee have heard me say in IFC, in Education Accountability Subcommittee, in this committee, is that I think we answered that hypothesis with yes, that we thought the hypothesis was yes, and we've answered that, I think, with being able to disperse funds and to demonstrate not just in the very particular case where we saw exceptional results with these hard-to-fill positions, but sort of across the state in all 17 school districts, or all the districts that came to us in IFC to request some additional funds, where those funds were met with the district's monies, that there was a decrease fundamentally in vacancies and in retention, in keeping those teachers in our classrooms and educating our students. And so I obviously am supportive of the policy to fill these seats because they are tough to fill, and because I do think you need very dedicated educators, which I know we have, and being able to compensate them for the job that they do is important. And so I just always like an opportunity to kind of illustrate that when we invest in education, we get real results. And those results aren't just that a teacher stayed in a job or that we kept somebody employed. Those results are that when every single one of those kids sat down in that classroom, they had someone in front of them that was teaching them, and someone that's making a difference in their educational journey and giving them an opportunity to succeed. And so I think it's a real demonstration of what this body can do in a very positive way when we think about different ways to enact policy in a new fashion to deliver for students. And so I believe that by investing in this particular policy, I would anticipate, and my hypothesis would be that yes, we would see increased retention and vacancy filling by being able to address some of those things. And so I love talking about this from a policy standpoint, just because we've been able to kind of watch it work. I think along those same lines, and I know speaker's been there for many long conversations about charter school raises, which obviously I think this committee, this body, the assembly, certainly the speaker has been committed to ensuring that we talked about charter school raises and making sure that we had some accurate data. Certainly, it's not included in the budgeting process because I think, again, we want to be able to see that this is actually working and to be able to allocate those monies appropriately. And so that, I think, is an important piece of this as we go into this next biennium, should Assembly Bill 398 ultimately pass and get signed. But this is something that I think you are, again, seeing a commitment from this body and certainly from leadership to invest in charter school raises for teachers and for staff. Because again, I think the important piece of this is when you do invest in those folks, it's not just keeping a job, it's giving everybody an opportunity. And so I appreciate the speaker having an additional bill that shows that we are committed to charter school raises. Obviously, there's legislation in this House that also was intended to ensure that there were multiple vehicles so that this would get done, to demonstrate that commitment, to show that just because something did not pass in a K through 12 budget bill because of how it is that we budget things in the money committees, that there are additional pieces of legislation that can go to fund important things in education and a variety of other places that we can pass independent of that and to ensure and deliver on that promise. And so I want to just thank you for including that in this bill as part of that recognition that we can do both of those things, and that there are ways in which we can say, yes, we are going to do raises for these additional charter schools. Yes, we can also pass a K through 12 budget that demonstrates all the different parameters that fall within that, and hopeful, of course, that this would then be able to be incorporated once we're able to ensure that this money for raises actually goes to teachers and to students rather than flowing it through a model or increasing a per pupil funding where you just don't know if that money ultimately makes it to a teacher. And so that was a comment, a lengthy one, I know, but obviously a topic that is important, I know, to the speaker, certainly to myself, and hopefully for members of this body. So thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me the time to just sort of say thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and nice to see you, sir. On the slide, systemically underperforming, 97% of chronically underperforming schools were Title I without a teacher. Can you just maybe elaborate on that a little bit? And is the incentive that is going to be coming with this program going to be enough to fill a majority, if not all those spots?
John Miller did it for the record, Senator Stone. It will not be enough money to fill all those spots, given the fiscal limitation. But what we're trying to do is go to where the greatest need is. And that's why we increase the threshold levels to 10, 12, and 15%.
Thank you very much, and we'll go to Senator Wynn.
Sorry, I had a question that kind of came to me after Senator Neal's question about what you were doing to track these schools. And then I turned over to my trusty expert here to my right, our chair, about all things education, and she kind of answered it for me, but I think it's probably good to put it on the record, and I think you had kind of alluded to it. When you're collecting information, obviously, on whether or not the student outcomes are being positively affected by this policy change in providing these, bonuses and base pay increases. Would you be able to do this obviously you'll have 2 years of data. Is there any data point where you're really going to see that? Is it after 3 years? Is it after 5 years? I know our chair has mentioned that you can look at 3 years, but probably 6 years is probably a better indication of like how you're seeing that progress. Is there any number that you guys are using internally in gauging this information? So when we come back here, we'll know what kind of you're looking at.
John Miller, for the record, and Senator Nguyen, you're right that the chair is right most of the time. No, so that really has to go in partnership with the Clark County School District. And we've had discussions with the new superintendent, Joan Ebert, and I'm not going to represent what she feels about it, but I can tell you in our conversations, she knows that this program makes a difference in the long run, and will be monitoring the results of a qualified educator in a classroom that has systemically underperformed because there's been no teacher in the classroom. So there are metrics, there are benchmarks to do that, but I'm not going to represent that. I'm not the employer. The school district is.
Speaker?
Steve Yeager for the record. Thank you, Chair. Through you to Senator Nguyen, and this kind of goes to Senator Neal's question. I forgot to mention a part of the bill that is easy to overlook, and that's section 8.3 of the bill on page 10. And I think the committee members here know that's the subcommittee on education accountability of the IFC that gets to meet and talk to any of the 17 school districts as well as the charter school association. And you'll see there at the bottom that I added something that the IFC subcommittee can examine. And I'll just read that down in line 38. It's the compensation paid to teachers at public schools to determine whether such compensation is sufficient to ensure competitiveness with other states and optimal educational achievements and outcome for pupils. The reason I put that there partly goes to those questions of course, the school districts have a lot of data. They report a lot of data. You can get lost in the dashboards online. I want to have the legislature have the ability to ask these questions that, sure, the IFC may be able to look at the positions, but I want this subcommittee, if they choose, to be able to ask the districts, how did you use this money? How many positions? And do we see long-term educational achievement? So that's the reason I put that here, is so that the legislature, at least the subcommittee, would have the ability to ask those questions and that we don't have to rely on data that's necessarily collected by the school districts. So I wanted to point that out because I think that does give us the chance, or whoever is going to serve on that committee in the future, to look at this program and not just look at, is it working now, but how could we make it better? Should the compensation be more? Should it be extended to charter schools? I mean, this is, I think, the legislative piece of this when it comes to accountability. And, I'll just note, we talked about it a lot, but this needs to be a long-term investment. We did some great things last legislative session, but I don't think it's realistic to think we're going to be here 2 years later and every school is going to turn things around. This has to be a long-term commitment, and I think this will allow us to track that.
Thank you very much. And when we had a little sidebar here and I said 5 or 6 years, the reason I said that is because if a child has a consistent teacher in the classroom in an elementary school, they go to middle school and high school prepared, right? If a child came to Nevada or didn't have that and then had some consistency maybe in middle school and the first 2 years of high school, I feel like that has provided them some consistency to move forward in that piece. So that's why I always feel like it's not just this little 3-year stint. We think of elementary school as K-3 and then maybe 4-5 or 4-5-6, depending on where that school lies. But I really think we kind of need this 5 years, and that's why I think it's important for us to, if you will, stick with a program. It's so easy, and especially in a legislature where we meet and then we don't, and we meet and then we don't. It's so easy if something doesn't work after 2 years to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And we do that really well in education with materials, teachers, kids, I don't care what it is. We just sort of move on. And I think we need to stop moving on. I think we need to have some real commitment to what we're doing and know that when we do this, we're going to stick with it. We're going to stick with it. because we can't go backwards. And by the way, there's no way for us to go backwards. We can only go forwards. And I say that as someone who loved teaching. I mean, when people say to me, would you go back now knowing what you know? I'd go back in a heartbeat because kids need us. That's exactly who kids need. So we need to stick to this for the kids. That's who we're sticking to it for. And that's my soapbox, Mr. Villardita. All right. Any other questions or comments from the committee? All right. With that, if you will step back, I will call for those in support of Assembly Bill 398 and welcome you to the table. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Chair, committee members. My name is Marie Nices, M-A-R-I-E-N-E-I-S-E-S-S, and I'm the president of CCEA. This is my 32nd year in CCSD, and my entire career has been dedicated to working in Title I schools. I've seen firsthand the detrimental effects of high teacher vacancies on a child's education. On more than one occasion, third grade students I once taught had a revolving door of substitutes from kindergarten through second grade. I was the first licensed teacher many of them had ever had. Sadly, this is not an isolated case. This is the reality in too many of our urban core schools. This crisis affects not only general education students, high teacher vacancies also disproportionately impact our special education students. As CCA president, I often hear from educators working in high-need schools. They're stretched thin, constantly stepping in to support classrooms without a licensed teacher. This is unsustainable and it's unfair to our students and educators. I'm here to emphasize that we will continue to struggle with low proficiency rates in reading, math, and science without persistent progress in placing qualified teachers in our most underserved classrooms. In 2023, you addressed this by recognizing the need to pay teachers more. The SB 231 investment had a significant impact on retention and recruitment in Title I schools and special education positions. However, that funding has ended. We must maintain and expand this support if we are to continue making progress. More than 7,000 CCSD educators signed a CCA petition calling for the continuation of funding established during the last legislative session. We cannot afford to lose the momentum we've gained. If we are genuinely committed to delivering a high-quality education for all students, we must invest in the teachers who make that possible. AB 398 continues the vital work by providing targeted compensation to help recruit and retain licensed teachers in hard-to-fill roles. I thank Speaker Yeager for bringing AB 398 forward. I urge you to support AB 398. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional support here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of AB 398, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. That's T-O-M-C-L-A-R-K. I am calling in on behalf of the Nevada Association of School Boards. I've also been given authorization to support AB 398 on behalf of the Nevada Association of Superintendents. We are very much appreciative of the work that has gone into this bill. We love that it's statewide, and we love that it is going to benefit the students in these schools that really need it and bring teachers on board that we really need. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And any additional callers, AVH, when you're ready.
Good evening, Chair Linda Arlou, members of the committee. My name is Gil Lopez, here with the Charter School Association of Nevada, here in support of AB 398. We want to thank the speaker for bringing it forward and also Mr. Villardita for the work on the bill. We do appreciate charter schools being included in the raises and look forward to conversations around hard-to-fill positions. So thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.
Any additional callers?
Good evening, Yes, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
I can. Please go ahead.
Caller with the last three digits 222, please press *6 to unmute yourself and you may begin.
I apologize for the confusion. I hope you can hear me. This is Sarah Adler.
We can hear you, Miss Adler.
Madam Chair? Okay. I'm so sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. I wish I were there with you. About 6 years ago today, Sophie Adler arrived to the world, and I'm at Sophie's birthday party. But turning to the bill, I have to say that the public charters that I represent in Northern Nevada, three of the six are Title I. We 100% commend CCEA for the way that they utilized SB 231 funds and for their continuation of this targeted game-changing work with AB 398. We also deeply appreciate Speaker Yeager's amendment to the bill to bring in charter salary equity. And we could listen to wonky leadership comments from the majority leader, from you, Madam Chair, from John Velardita and Speaker Yeager all night long. This is terrific policy that is really going to help all of the children in our state, and we thank you very much for it. Have a good evening. Sorry for the odd comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy birthday to the little person. Any additional callers, AVH?
There are no further callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone in opposition in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, AVH, when you're ready?
If you would like to testify in opposition to AB 398, please press *9 to take your place in the queue.
Good evening, Alexander Marks with the Nevada State Education Association. While this bill is a step in the right direction, it unfortunately and deliberately excludes other critical educators. Through our Time for 20 and Red for Ed campaigns, NSCA has been a consistent leader on educator compensation. For anyone to suggest otherwise ignores the depth and consistency of the work we've done and undermines the urgency of this statewide issue. We would urge all elected officials to approach this conversation with thoughtfulness and respect and avoid rhetoric that seeks to divide unions and marginalize the voice of educators. We would love to support this bill, and since its introduction, we've engaged in good faith, offering amendments, trying to hold meetings. Our amendment is rooted simply in fairness. Our amendment is about expanding to all educators in hard-to-fill positions, including ESPs and other licensed professionals. These are educators who serve on the front lines of our schools, often in the most challenging environments. These are special education aides, parapros in Title I schools, bus drivers, many of whom face the most persistent and severe staffing shortages, and they're left out of this bill. Today, some of these ESPs spent their workday diapering students, being spit on, scratched, and hit, and that's just a Wednesday. These are the folks being excluded from the very support this legislation seeks to provide. And while these roles remain vacant or unsupported, the impact is felt across the school. Shortages in these roles make it harder to recruit and retain classroom teachers, compounding the very crisis this bill is trying to address. And what's particularly disheartening is the presentation didn't include the cost to expand this support to ESPs. With $90 million on the table, why not provide a number on what it would be to include everyone? Without that information, the message to our hardworking ESPs and OLPs is essentially, you're not worth it. Try again in 2 years if you still work for a district. That message is almost as demoralizing as the $2 budget increase we saw this year, a decision that will be a de facto education cut and risks undoing much of the progress we fought for in the last 2 years. Every single role matters when we're supporting our students and keeping our schools strong. NSCA fights not just for our members, but the entire public education system. That's the work of a real union. We don't leave folks behind. Solidarity Forever includes all 120 days. Please amend this bill to reflect the full breadth of hard-to-fill education roles. The resources exist and the need is clear. Thank you.
There are no further callers to provide opposition testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to neutral here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide neutral testimony at this time.
AVH, are you there? Are there any callers in neutral?
My apologies. There are no callers to provide neutral testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. Closing comments, speaker. You are very welcome. Thank you very much. And with that, I will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 398. Thank you very much. And with that, we will go to public comment here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. There are no callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, we will finish up the evening. We will start again in the morning at about 8:30, and I always say ish, because give or take. And we'll take a 1-minute recess before we adjourn. Okay, well, before we adjourn, we're going to do one more work session, Bill. And we are going to work session the bill that we just heard, Assembly Bill 398. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Thorley and let him give us some instructions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Assembly Bill 398 was just presented by Speaker Yeager and John Velardita with CCEA. There was testimony and support from the CCEA, Nevada Association of School Boards, Nevada Association of School Superintendents, Charter School Association of Nevada, and the Coalition of Independent Public Charter Schools in Northern Nevada. Opposition testimony was given by NSEA. There's no neutral testimony, no amendments to the bill presented or discussed. If the committee wishes to move this bill, the appropriate action would be do pass.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? With that, I will accept a motion.
I'd so move to do pass.
Thank you very, very much, Senator Wynn. I'll take a second from Senator Canizaro. Is there any discussion on the motions? Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From what I can understand and listening via the phone app, which actually isn't too bad, I'm going to vote yes to get this bill out of the committee. I think it's a work in progress. I think there's been a lot of discussion regarding multiple bills in this session for education, and we're going to support this and get it out of the committee.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, Senator Buck, please.
Thank you, Chair Dondera Loop. Again, I'm going to vote yes today. I think I'm grateful that we showed salary equity with the raises, the public charter school teacher raises. However, I think there's still work to be done. If we're going to give extra dollars to Title I schools in the traditional public, we should give Title I schools in charter school public, again, additional dollars for those hard to fill positions, because there can be schools right next to each other, one charter, one magnet, and one traditional, and all may have all hard to fill positions. They should be treated with equity. So I'll be a yes today, and I'm grateful again to the bill sponsor and to the presenter. But I think just looking, every child deserves to have a qualified and excellent teacher in the classroom, and especially in Center Las Vegas. And I like that this is moving toward that, but I think we need it across the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments? All right, with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Please mark Senator Neal absent, excused. And a motion passes, and I will assign the floor statement later. We'll figure that one out. All righty. With that, we will adjourn until tomorrow morning at 8:30, and we will see you all with smiles on your faces.